Have you ever spent hours tracking down podcasts to pitch to guest on, agonized over writing the perfect email to them, and then waited and only heard crickets back? Or maybe you received a gentle, no thanks, or not right now reply. It can be so frustrating when you're just trying to get your book message out there in front of more people, yet it feels like everyone's just slamming the door in your face, right? My new friend, Kerisma, can totally relate. She joins me today to talk about her experience with podcast guesting and how finding the PodMatch service changed her strategy. That's where we connected, is on the PodMatch platform, and Kerisma's giving you a behind-the-scenes look at how PodMatch works and how it's helping her connect with more podcast hosts without pitching. Plus, she brings some much needed encouragement for showing up authentically as a guest because it matters way more than sounding polished. Ooh, amen to that, right? You're in for a treat today, so let's get to it. Welcome, Kerisma. I'm so excited for you to be on Book Marketing Mania to serve my listeners today.
It's so great to be here. Thank you very much, Kim.
Since we connected on PodMatch, I would just love to hear more about your experience as a PodMatch member, getting to connect with podcast hosts, how you got started with PodMatch, and how it's going for you so far.
Well, I published my first book back in September, and I also have been building up my business towards wellness coaching. And I don't really like a lot of the traditional forms of marketing. They're not really a fit for me. And so, one, I was going to create my own podcast, which is in the works. And, but two, I was looking around for podcasts, and there's just so many out there. And my to-do list is sort of this dynamic, never-ending thing. So every once in a while, I would find time and I would put out a few cold calls to different podcasts that I thought were a fit. And you know what? I didn't ever hear back from anybody. And then, I had seen different advertisings for different platforms that kind of provided a service. And I did a little bit of research. Admittedly, I used AI to help me do some of that research. And I came across PodMatch, and I was impressed with what you got for the price. I'm a writer and a coach on a budget. So I was like, okay, this is doable. The basic package is pretty good. And I put some effort into creating my profiler. And I really liked how it worked. And it was so neat. I woke up the next day and I think I had like 6 or 7 people wanting me to be on their show. And I'm like, oh, I'm popular. And I was like, well, that's so nice. And it was really funny, actually, because for the first couple of months, I didn't really have time to do a lot of using the match feature itself, right? But I didn't need to because people were connecting to me. So I was like, okay, I would log on to spend some time sending out pitches to appropriate shows that I'd been matched with. But really, for the first couple of months, there was just like people that were finding me. So that was great. And I got to be 7th or something on the leaderboard the first month and 5th the second month. And I was like, that was quite charming. And I love the whole setup. It connects you to people that are relevant to your own passions and beliefs. And then you get to have these wonderful conversations with people who care about the same things that you do, and then the platform is really easy. I think I have 36 shows and I've got 35 5-star reviews, and I've given 36 reviews. So I don't know. One of them's missing, but, so I love that. And I love how easy it is. I can check my dashboard and I can see okay, what's coming up this week. I try to do them in clumps so that they're not every day, because I, have other things on my to-do list. And then I can kind of manage as well. I've started to get into the matches service where they're giving me 3 matches every 4 hours. I've also used the explore feature to sort of look around and poke at some places. And I've connected to some just amazing people. And, when I wanted to create my podcast, Beyond Survival, sort of about stories from people that had gone from surviving to thriving, I wasn't really aware that there was a lot of podcasts, but so far, I've run into so many people doing something similar to that, maybe not identical to that, but similar enough to that. So it's just For me, it's been a delightful way to really connect with all these different people sharing a similar passion. And I think too, it's actually been like a blessing in disguise because in working with all of these different people that have already have shows established, I've learned a lot more about,
Uh-huh.
what I want to do in launching my own podcast. But yeah, the interface is super simple. You just move through the process of your pitch to your match to your, like, often there's a release form, and then you're scheduling either the pre-interview or the interview itself, and it just kind of tracks it all and everything, and so much easier in my opinion than trying to wade through the hundreds of thousands of podcasts out there. And I think too, it opens the door, like, by being on the platform. um I think for hosts that want to potentially have me as a guest, they can go to my page and they can check me out. They can read the reviews and stuff like that. So it's not quite a cold call at this
Uh-huh.
point. We're already sharing this platform. So we have just like that 6 degree of separation kind of relationship, which is just like a little bit better than going and knocking on somebody's door that has
Yeah.
no clue about you, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's so true, and I think, that's a great way to put it because it is like we're all there for the same purpose, and so right, you're not just reaching out to some, podcast that's just out there, that you don't know anything about, and you can go spend some time trying to research and stuff, but it's like right away, this podcast is looking for guests, and I'm a guest, looking for shows. There's that immediate connection, and I love that, I've interviewed a lot of people through PodMatch, but you're probably the first person, Charisma, that's really talked through the back end of it. We've all talked about like how it does simplify things, but just how you're using the back end dashboard. That's where you just keep everything. And I know Alex, the founder, has done such an incredible job putting all that together. And so it's like that just makes it even easier too, right? That you're not having to manage it all. You can just log in and see what's there, what's coming up next. And like you said, you could do a whole bunch at one time and then take a break, and then come back to it when you're ready and you just kind of pace yourself. I was also thinking you talk about, when you're first guesting, it's this huge big thing, right? It's just so many different moving parts and you just are trying to get started. And like you said, there's so many podcasts out there. But when you're brand new, you want to get some under your belt, right? So you can show, I have been a guest before. And I think that's one other reason to use it because, like you said, you saw some quick responses, and you're able to get some of that under your belt. And then, you move on, each time you learn more about what you're doing. And you gave me so much food for thought is what I was going to say, Charisma. It's like, because I was already thinking too, like what you just said about, you're thinking about starting your own show. And I never really thought about this. Like, as a guest and you go see like aligned shows and you start kind of seeing, okay, well, this is a show I was thinking about. This is how their show is. So now it's kind of like, framing your show a little differently in your mind. Like it really helps you kind of figure out what do I want my show to be so it's not like everybody else's that's serving this niche, and I think that's such a cool way that I hadn't thought about, like it's so important to think about that as a podcaster, but then not really realizing, wow, just guesting can help you kind of fine tune that as an author, I think especially.
And
Um
I think even above and beyond that kind of there's the whole platform thing. Like,
uh-huh.
I'm not gonna bash certain platforms
Yeah,
on your
yeah,
show, but some are not very good, like,
yeah.
and so you kind of learn like what calendar systems, what kind of booking systems, what kind of like automated response systems, and then like for recording itself, there's definitely a couple I wouldn't use and a few that I was like, oh wow, I think those are really useful. So it's
Mhm.
exposed me to all of that and kind of helped me do a little bit of in the moment exploration of it. And
Mhm.
you mentioned Alex and Alicia, like I am all about integrity, right?
Uh-huh.
And genuine people. And I really believe that they've set up this company to help people and not just to make money.
Uh-huh.
And that's sort of where I come from is like, yeah, I like to, pay the rent at the end of the day, but I'm out there doing what I do for much more than that. And that authentic wanting to promote these conversations and help people have a smoother experience, whether they're a guest or a host, it really comes through from them, in my
Uh-huh.
opinion, you know?
Mhm.
So I like that it aligns with my own values too.
Mhm.
Like I feel good about supporting this platform and being a part of it. So it's like a fit for me in that way as well.
Yeah, yeah, because if you're gonna do anything, yeah, it's like you wanna pick the one that is aligned, versus some others that aren't doing that for you, and, yeah, I've had the joy of meeting them multiple times in person, and if you haven't done that, they are just the same people offline as they are online, and they just have such big hearts for people, and especially from the podcasting world, and I so appreciate that, like, that's what we need. It's just there's just so much out there that we're not crazy about, right? And people that we don't wanna follow and work with, and they just I love everything that they do. Yeah, I just can't say enough about them and the PodMatch platform. Well, so do you have any tips for somebody that's just thinking about, joining PodMatch, or if they're maybe overwhelmed in the beginning? Like, is there anything that you wish you would have known when you first started out?
Like, I think I'm a bit of a weird duck because, like, I have fun. So when I'm looking up and exploring different shows, it's like my lifetime has been so diverse,
Mhm,
and my books and my coaching and everything like that, that has so many different things that I can pretty much, listen to a show and see what we have in common, you
uh-huh,
know? So I guess that would be my advice to people is listen to some of the shows, read the person's full profile for one
uh-huh,
thing, what their show is about, um, what they're hoping to do, and then listen to some of them. And then it's like, yeah, think about what it is that you have to offer or where it is what you're doing aligns with what they're doing and what would be like a good conversation to have, right?
uh-huh,
To me, I don't think coming at it from like oh, I'm trying to make sales or marketing yourself kind of thing is going to get
mhm,
anybody anywhere. That one would end up sounding like a commercial. And I don't think, very many hosts, if any, are looking for that kind of a guest. They're looking for somebody who will actually bring value to the show, bring value to their listeners by being a part of a conversation that fits the theme, the outline, shall we say, for their show, right? So,
uh-huh,
for me, I sit down and I think about that because I am a writer and other things. I quite have fun identifying the different themes that, like, I call them angles, but, it's not a self-serving angle. It's like, "Oh, how do we collaborate?" And it's like,
uh-huh,
"Oh, okay, this whole part of my world fits with this part of their world. So I'm going to, write a pitch and suggest that we could do a show, about that, or this is where I fit," and
uh-huh,
I think too, it's also important to not take it personally if you get a no, or
uh-huh,
if you don't get an answer or you get a
yeah,
no, because we're all out there. And I guess it's a little bit like dating,
uh-huh, yeah,
And that's not personal or anything like that. Just for me, I think, I've chosen to really be myself and to, like I said, think about how I can be of value to the host that I'm approaching for an opportunity to be on their show, right?
yeah, yeah, that's so great, and that's what it's all about, right? And I love that, like, somebody like you were just describing, you have lots of different areas you could talk about from your lifetime as well as, being a coach, and I think that's what's the beauty of Podmatch is too. It's like, you may have, like, your own circle that you know really well of, like, maybe a certain niche, but, even within that, not everybody, is on Podmatch, and not everybody is, looking for guests or whatever, but I think just being able to, like you said, it's a super fun thing, just thinking of all the different ways you can approach a show, and really serve them well. And I think that's the beauty of Podmatch because there's so many on there, and so many diverse audiences to serve in different ways. But again, they just make it so much, easier under one roof. Well, what results have you seen from being a guest on podcasts? Do you feel like, I mean, have you seen results for, your book sales or coaching business or just exposure for you or relationships built? Like, what have you seen make a big difference for you?
I think that's still unfolding, to be
Mhm.
honest. I know that I've been exposed to, more than 2,500 people have listened to shows I have been on
Uh-huh.
so far, and the exposure is much, much greater than that. But not a huge a lot of results that I can see as far as people entering my ecosystem yet.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
However, I only started in, I think it was December,
Oh, wow.
and
Okay.
a lot of my shows have just really rolled out in this last month and are
Yeah.
still rolling out. So, Like, I think this is a slow growth kind of thing. It's not an instant gratification or an instant results kind of thing. So,
Yeah.
I'm planting seeds, and it's even much beyond just like somebody listening to one of my shows or whatever. It's like it's adding credibility and visibility. Like when you Google me, there's a lot. I oh my goodness, I put my own name into Apple Podcasts the other day, and like this entire page came up. Like
Yeah.
20 shows with Kerisma Vere in the title and stuff like that. And it all sort of feeds the ecosystem, right? In my opinion. But
Yeah.
have I seen like direct book sales yet? Maybe a couple last week, I was thinking, because you can sort of get a feel for where the sales are coming from. But I think I'm still in the phase where I need to just like keep being patient, keep showing up, keep doing it because it's unfolding. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's about my only challenge so far, really, is being able to track when the shows come out. And sometimes they come out in bunches of stuff like that. And I like to taper things out with my
Yeah.
social media, right? And I have yet to figure out how to download things in such a way that I can put them on my own YouTube channel. So there's just some technical glitches that I'm trying to figure out as far as me helping with that exposure. So, I just keep ending up writing more books, so that takes over the to-do list.
Yeah,
But,
that's what you're supposed to do, right? But yeah,
yeah,
it's funny you
so
say about YouTube. I was thinking, I wish more podcasts were on YouTube, not from a like I have to have my video on YouTube, but just even having the audio feed there because then your guests can add it to their own playlist, if they have a channel on YouTube, because you just never know. Like we say, it's slow growth and it just, keeps feeding in and it compounds over time. And you just never know what YouTube's going to do with any of that too. So, because I always think about that. Oh, I could put this on my playlist, but then if you can't find it anywhere to do that, like you're saying, you have to have the file and then you upload it and that just turns into a whole different thing. But yeah, that's so good. Well, so one last question I want to ask you, Charisma, is, being a coach, and for some of us, we end the conversation as a guest. And sometimes, we get off the recording, we're like, oh, we're so self critical, right? I have done that so many times where I'm like, oh man, why did I say it this way? Or I wish I would have said XYZ or, something like that. Is there one tip you would share with podcast guests to get over that?
Oh, absolutely. It's funny. I'll use AI for different things, and it's always trying to polish my stuff to, like, stop polishing it. I like being genuine. I like being authentic. I like being
Uh-huh.
real. I was just sharing with you. I don't need you to polish it.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, that's the truth. When we're human, when we make mistakes, I mean, something you might have been so critical of yourself might be something that really reaches somebody, right? Like, because
Hmm.
you were human. I know I shared in my recovery from my breakdown that I had really struggled to brush my teeth, and I had somebody call me up after I had shared that. And they thanked me because they had been, unable to do laundry for a couple of weeks because they were so deeply in their depression.
Uh-huh.
Do I feel vulnerable sometimes making mistakes or sharing things? I do. But you know what? I just feel like those are the beams of light that just
Hmm.
shoot out there and hit the people that they need to, right? So,
Yeah.
the other thing is there's no such thing as perfect.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So and quality of life is like, I would rather enjoy the moment than try to fine tune it to the point of whatever, because I miss out on getting to enjoy life. But
Yeah.
your question is so big, Kim. Like I've got two books about that. So it's hard for me to streamline that into one thing. But just
Yeah.
just basically I think it takes work and practice to get there, but the idea is that each and every one of us is perfectly good enough just the way we are, and we
Yeah.
do not need to be perfect. Whatever your goal is,
Uh-huh.
one, perfect is impossible, but we simply don't need to be
Uh-huh.
perfect about anything.
Yeah, that's so true. I think you answered that beautifully because that's what we just need to remember going into it, right? Before and after the interview, both and after it airs. And, it's just, if you feel like you should have said something differently, we have a chance to improve it. But like you said, you never know what you might be saying that you think is imperfect or, needed to be said a different way, but it really hit the listener just where they needed it. And that's what we're all about, right? That's what we should be doing. So, yeah, it was so great to connect with you, Charisma. And I'm so excited for my listeners to get to learn from you and connect with you as well. So, I'll be sure and put a link to your website in the show notes. And I just so appreciate your time today.
Okay, thank you very much, Kim.
Oh, I just loved connecting with Kerisma, and I'm so thankful to be part of the PodMatch platform so I can meet incredible people like her that can come and serve you really well here on the show. And if you want to check out PodMatch, be sure and click on the link in the show notes and see if it's right for you, or feel free to reach out to me with any questions you might have because I'd love to help. Now, if the word marketing makes you want to run and hide, my next episode is for you. My new friend Pat, author and podcast host, joins me to share how she finally made peace with how she's getting her message out there and why podcasting as a host and guest is her favorite way. Thanks for tuning into Book Marketing Mania today, and as always, I'll be there for you next episode to help you reach and serve your readers one podcast at a time. See you then.